Hello, and welcome to HRBC show called Let's Talk. So, as you know, Chesapeake has quite a few people trying to be your city council person. So, today, even though we could not endorse Mrs. Smith, we like to show you all of your choices to make sure that you know that you do have choices. So, welcome. Would you like to tell us a little about yourself?
Yes, thank you, Nina, for having me. A little bit about myself. I am a retired deputy sheriff. I retired as a lieutenant from Chesapeake Sheriff's Office with 28 years of service in 2013. I currently have my own small business where I help clients with their financial literacy, life insurance, and retirement benefit needs. Um, I also have my own mentoring program where I mentor young men ages 12 through 19. That's currently what I'm doing. Graduate of St. Paul's College, undergraduate in human resource management, business administration, and a master's from the University of Richmond with human resource management as a major.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, I got some questions for you. You ready?
Sure.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
All right, what made you want to be a council person?
Okay. I kind of stumbled across it, Nina, from the standpoint of I ran for sheriff for the city of Chesapeake in 2013, and it gave me some insight on what politics was all about. And I realized that the situation was bigger than what goes on at the sheriff's department as far as being represented, having a voice, and how funds are appropriated. And I saw on a larger scale throughout the city that very thing was taking place. So I wanted to help on that level of dealing with those issues. Yes.
Okay. All right. What are your thoughts on healthcare services for the elderly and how it can be improved in Chesapeake?
Okay. I think from the standpoint of healthcare for the elderly, that the city is providing some programs which assist. I feel as though they probably can also do better or do more from that standpoint. And when I say do more, some of it to a certain extent is awareness, publicizing the information, what services are available. And that needs to be done more from that standpoint, like transportation to doctor visits, workout. They have some of that for senior citizens. They also have individuals that come in, because I even do Medicare myself. So you have folks that come in and teach seniors the different programs and services that are available. That needs to be taking place more so than it currently is. But I believe we also can help more from the standpoint of housing for seniors and rehabilitation. Yes.
Okay. All right. So the council voted to no longer offer curbside recycling to the Chesapeake residents. What are your thoughts about that vote?
Okay. That's a hot button right now, hot issue in the city. I feel as though from the standpoint of curbside recycling was that they didn't think that thing through. When I say that, I mean current city council didn't think it through when they provided a service for the citizens, and then all of a sudden you take it away. That's a hard pill to swallow. And in my opinion, what they should have done was looked into their reserves to temporarily continue until they was able to renegotiate the contract. But I feel as though when they go back to try it again, they're gonna do their homework. And if I'm a part of city council, we would do our homework before we put it out there to the citizens again, and then make sure we appropriate the funds that we're gonna use for recycling and make sure we use it for that purpose and don't take it off the chart again. Yes.
Okay, okay. All right. So on your site, it says leadership is key and voice for the people. What does that mean to you?
Okay. Leadership to me means a leader that listens. It's important as a leader that you listen. And when you listen, you know what the people want or what the people needs are. And you can better fulfill them when you listen. And then also you lead by example. It's not as I say, but also as I do. And I feel as though that's how we need to be going forward with the city, is leading by example, listening to what the citizens want and trying to fulfill that need. And right now, we're not currently doing that. not fully, in my opinion. Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So, can you tell us some of the greatest problems that Chesapeake faces and how you would help to make them better?
We have our share, I believe, like any other city. I would go with infrastructure. I would go with crime, housing, and attracting new businesses. Those are the major four in our city. And I want to be a part of tackling all of them. I would start out with the growth problem. So in the infrastructure, and I say from our city standpoint, we're building quicker than we're building our infrastructure, meaning we're building communities ahead of our infrastructure. So our roads are not necessarily in place, and it causes traffic jams, and that needs to be taken care of. And it also causes other problems from the standpoint of it overfills our schools, where down the road, I'm sure we have to do some rezoning or possibly some new building. And we're building too quick from that standpoint. And so I say, get your infrastructure in place and then continue to build from the standpoint of our communities. From the standpoint of housing, we need to have more affordable housing. We got a lot of people that work in Chesapeake but can't afford to live in Chesapeake. So we need to have across the board housing that is affordable to our constituents. That could be people just getting out of high school, college, our blue collar workers, our seniors. They all need a place to stay and can afford to actually live there. I notice I also hit on crime. Now, my background is law enforcement, so crime is a big one to me. And what I said I would try to do is come up with a crime prevention task force. And that task force will be to, one, I call it the 4 E's. We're going to enforce the law in these communities. We're going to help employ folks in these communities. We're going to educate the folks in these communities. And we're going to change the environment to make it a better living situation. And you work on all that together with the police involved, local government involved, and then non-profit programs and organizations involved. We'll make it a better world. We'll make it a better city. And then that last one I want to tap on is attracting more businesses to the city. That's important, I think. Really, that's almost number one. We got to bring in more businesses to the city, because when we do that, we build our revenue base. And all our operating expenses can be taken care of out of that revenue stream that we're trying to build. So that's the 4 areas that I said we need to work on. That's problems currently in Chesapeake. Yes.
Well, speaking of those businesses, what are your thoughts on how we can better improve economic development in the African American community?
One is they have to have a seat at the table, which is not happening enough. We need to be in leadership roles. We need to be made aware of the opportunities, and we need to have the proper training. So we need to have some government type programs that will teach all of this and to include them in the procurement process. So when it's time to make purchases and when it's time to do contracting, that the African American community is made aware of these opportunities. But a lot of times when you don't have representation, you don't know what's going on, and that can be the difference right there. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there are some bridges that some people feel that are unsafe to cross. What are your thoughts on how to get those repaired?
Okay. I don't know of a lot of bridges that we have problems with, but we do have some. And I just say when there are problems, we need to take care of them expeditiously, as quickly as possible. And then if we have to have a temporary fix as far as the safeguards are concerned, make those happen. 2 bridges in particular I can mention, not saying about how safe they are, but they cause bottlenecks throughout the day. One would be the Deep Creek locks. And I would say from that standpoint, we need to expedite the process of doing all the contract work, doing all the eminent domain for that particular area to get this bridge fixed as quickly as possible. Because every day in the morning, going to work, every day in the evening coming home from work, you got these communities that all bottleneck going across the Deep Creek locks. And that's one area that needs to be fixed The second one is the Gilmerton Bridge, which actually affects me because I live in the Deep Creek part of the city. And going across the Gilmerton Bridge, you have the same problem to where there's certain times of day when the bridge is up. That's on Military Highway.
Mm-hmm.
And when that bridge is up, traffic is backed up for quite a while, quite a bit. And it takes a while for you to be able to move back across that bridge. And it goes up anytime during the day. The other problem with that, Nina, is that a lot of people be trying to avoid the tolls, so they come that way. So, right. So I'm trying to look at a way to where we can get the tolls decreased in cost, so more people be willing to go across the tolls, and the money still can accumulate the same way, because now they're losing traffic flow across the toll bridges and the tunnels because it costs too much. So everybody's trying to find a free way to get home, and I want to change that.
Okay.
Yes, right.
I would like you to change that too. Okay. All right. So, what were you doing before to improve your community before you started running?
Okay, so I just didn't get during this election get involved in the community. I just been out there all along. You know, some of it came from me going to college and me joining a fraternity. I joined Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity, and it was all about community work. So immediately after I got out of college, I started being involved in the community, and we worked with the youth during that time frame. I did some basketball coaching, so forth and so on. But then in recent years, starting in 2014, I started my own mentoring program that I mentioned earlier called Ground Zero Development. So we mentor young men ages 12 through 19. And that's been very successful. I want to say from that program, all of our kids, I've seen positive things from. No one has died. No one has gone to jail. They're now at college age, some of them, and some of them in the working world and in the military. So all positives from that particular program. But also with another program, our organization I belong to called New Chesapeake Men for Progress, I've been advocating from the standpoint of changing the dynamics of the city. So I did some research, and with that research, Norfolk has 5 public swimming pools. Virginia Beach has 7 public swimming pools, and Chesapeake has 0. Okay, and I shared with council back in, what was this, 2021. I shared with them that I had to learn 40 plus years ago how to swim at Norfolk Boys and Girls Club when it should have been offered in Chesapeake. Okay, so a lot of people can't afford the Y and some other places where they have to pay a great deal of money for membership. So me sharing that information along with others, not just by myself, but now with that allocating going on, Chesapeake now has announced that they're going to have their first public swimming pool. Yes, in the Clarence Coffee Community Center area. So that was one thing I advocated for, but another I advocated for, because you asked about community involvement, I pushed along with others to change the election date for some cities that were voting in May. Small turnout, and it didn't make sense because it didn't show the true representation of what the city's citizens wanted. And with that change, now more people are involved in the process. So it's not just Chesapeake, but now the whole state votes in November. Cuts down on confusion as to when do we vote. Now we know it's always November.
Yeah.
So we're gonna see how it's gonna turn out this time around, how many people actually come out to vote.
Yeah.
2 more things I want to hit on that I'm advocating for. So I have been in the community listening and talking to people, and there's 2 essential services that some communities don't have. That's a grocery store, and that's a bank. So they're needed.
Yeah.
And some communities that lack that have further to drive, and it can have an impact on job opportunities, getting loans, so forth and so on. We got to travel further to make that happen. So those 2, and also food deserts. So those 2 things need to be taken care of or looked into more so in certain communities. So I'm working on that piece. And last is, I see malls close down, and I'm trying to make sure Greenbrier Mall doesn't close down. And that it can be revitalized, because I was also told that in Virginia Beach, everybody goes to Lynn Haven. So we can do it in Chesapeake too. So I'm out there listening and working with folks. And I want to share this with the public. My initials, LES, LES, stands for listens to every sentence.
Okay. Listen to every sentence.
Yes.
Okay. What about Chesapeake Square Mall?
Chesapeake Square Mall, it was bought out by someone, and it's not as active as it could be, but it's still in existence. Some of the anchor stores have left, and they're trying to do creative things to keep it afloat.
Like all of things.
Right.
I mean, you got the movie theater.
Yes.
All right. Okay. All right. So, what are your top 3 goals that you would hope to accomplish if elected?
Okay. I think the first one would be is to get council to work together to find out what are the greatest priorities of the city and work together on what should be done in what fashion. And then make sure we make it a point to cover the whole city as far as the whole city needs. And I think right now it's kind of cramped up to where it's top heavy to one part of the city as far as demographics are concerned, as far as representation. So some boroughs or some areas of the city get left out by not have enough representation. Number 2, you said 3, right?
Yes.
Okay. Number 2 would be, I mentioned earlier, attracting more businesses to the city, both large and small businesses, because that's going to bring in more revenue, which is very much needed. Job opportunity. And with that being said, I will work with 2 developments or two departments within the city, and that's our economic development department. Invest more money into that and giving them more leeway to solicit more businesses to the city. And then secondly is our recreation and our tourism department, because I want to try to do things from the standpoint of bringing in some revenue that tourism will oversee.
Okay.
Yes. And then my third point is bring in or create rather a sustainable stream of income for our city. And that means, like a business, even though we're government, have some amenities that will bring in money. Okay, so our city currently right now is working on, but it's regional, it's broadband. Right now, everybody don't have access to broadband or internet service throughout the city because we're a large city. But some rural areas, they don't get the system. And then also, we can be more competitive with some of the other companies like Verizon and Cox, where sometimes when they monopolize, that makes it difficult. You got to pay that price or no price. So the broadband coming is one thing. But secondly is, I'm thinking along the line of trying to have a sportsplex in Chesapeake. Yeah, to bring in some more business. And it has it can have a chain reaction effect from the standpoint of we bring in a sportsplex. So now we're starting to have more athletic programs happening, more people coming to the city for those events. So now all of a sudden, now we're gonna start building more hotels because we have places to stay overnight. Remember the conversation we had earlier?
Yeah.
All right, okay. So you gotta have a place to stay. Then also we can tie into, now we need more restaurants for places for people to eat. So, and then contractors to provide services for those different complexes that we build. And then last is, from the standpoint, I want to try to have a convocation center in Chesapeake because a lot of our recreational dollars, discretionary dollars are going to other cities when they can actually be used right here in Chesapeake from a recreational standpoint. So I'm trying to make that happen. And that will bring in another stream of income that the city can utilize for its operations. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, those are all the questions that I have, and I don't see any questions from the social media standpoint. So, is there anything else you would like to tell us?
Yes. I don't know how much time I got, but I want the public to know that I'm running because I feel like a lot of communities are underrepresented or not represented at all. And I want you to know that with me being at the table, you have a voice at the table. I'm just a phone call away. I'm transparent in my actions. And I think you as citizens need to be in the know. So as we try to do things as a council, it's important for us to inform the public. And then when we inform the public of what we're doing, it's also important that we tell you why. So when we educate the public on what we're doing, they can understand why we made a decision that we made. And that's the way I want to operate. And all I'm asking is that I'm given the opportunity to sit on council and make these things happen. I do want to share because some know, some don't know, but this is my third time trying to be a part of city council. And I haven't given up, and I don't want you to give up on me. I want you to say, this is a guy that's serious about what he's trying to do, and he's humble, and he's really trying to help the people. Because I'm not going to make a lot from what I'm trying to do, but I'm really willing to sacrifice myself for the better good of the citizens of Chesapeake. Chesapeake is my home. I'm a native of Chesapeake, lived here all my life. And I just want to see it be better than what it currently is. And I think right now it's not going completely in the right direction. And I'm just trying to change that. Not alone, but be a part of that change. And then set it up for succession planning to where when the next person takes over, it's a little bit better than what it was before. And then they can go with it from there. And I do say visit my website, lessmithoffice.com, to know more about me and my campaign, who I'm endorsed by, and know that I'm here for the people. I'm excited. I'm just waiting to see what's going to happen on November the 8th. Early voting has already started, and we're just saying, folks, get to the polls, be a part of the process, because on November the 9th, it's too late. Don't complain on November the 9th if you haven't voted by November the 8th.
That's right.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for stopping by and talking to us. That's it. Bye, y'all. Enjoy your day.